She was my emergency contact. She was also on his payroll. But I didn't know that yet. On the day, I got the best phone call of my life. I want you to stay with me, because this story is going to go places you are not ready for. By the time we get to the end, you're going to question everything you thought you knew about the people closest to you. I know I did. My name is Zara, and for most of my 20s, I did everything right and got nothing for it. I stayed in the safe lane, the job that paid the bills, the title that sounded okay at dinner parties, the career that was fine. Not great. Fine. And fine will quietly destroy you if you let it go on long enough. So at 29, I made a decision that terrified me. I applied for a position at a company I had admired for years. A creative agency that did work I genuinely respected. The kind of place where, if I got in, I would actually care about what I was building. I sent the application at midnight on a Tuesday, told nobody, and spent the next 3 weeks convincing myself it wasn't going to happen. And then it did. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. I was eating a sad desk lunch when my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail. I almost missed the whole thing. But something made me pick up, and the woman on the other end told me they wanted to offer me the role. I remember sitting completely still for about 4 seconds. Then I walked to the bathroom, locked the door, and cried into a paper towel so nobody at my old job would hear me. The first person I called, the only person I wanted to tell, was Demi. My best friend since we were 14 years old. The person who had talked me into applying in the first place. She picked up on the second ring, and when I told her, she screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "I knew it," she said. "I always knew it was going to be you." And I believed her. I had no reason not to. What I didn't see, what I couldn't have seen, was that the moment we hung up, Demi picked up her phone again. And this time, she wasn't calling to celebrate. While I was busy falling in love with the job I'd always wanted, someone I trusted was quietly making sure it wouldn't last. My first week at the new job, I ate lunch at my desk every single day, not because I had to, but because I genuinely did not want to stop working. That had never happened to me before in my life. I want you to understand what that felt like after years of watching the clock. The work was exactly what I'd hoped. My manager, Nadia, was sharp and direct and treated me like I had something worth contributing from day one. My colleagues were good people. The projects were real. I remember driving home on a Friday and thinking, this is what it's supposed to feel like. This whole time, it was supposed to feel like this. I called Demi that night and told her everything. Every detail. The project I'd been assigned, the client names, the internal deadline, the things Nadia had said to me in our first one-on-one. I told her all of it, the way you only tell someone you've trusted for half your life. She listened to every word, asked follow-up questions, seemed genuinely happy for me. And then, after we hung up, she opened a text thread she'd been keeping hidden for 2 weeks and typed out everything I'd just told her. His name was Marcus, my ex. We had ended things 8 months earlier, or more accurately, I had ended things, and he had never fully accepted that. The kind of man who mistakes control for love and then acts shocked when you finally choose yourself. What I didn't know, what I had no way of knowing, was that sometime in the weeks before my start date, Marcus had found Demi, and he had made her an offer. He wasn't asking her to destroy me, not yet. He framed it as harmless. "Just keep me informed," he said. "Just let me know how she's doing." He handed her an envelope. She told herself it was nothing serious, that she wasn't really hurting anyone. She was wrong, but she wouldn't understand that until it was far too late. That night, Marcus read Demi's message twice. Then he leaned back in his chair and smiled the slow, patient smile of someone who has just been handed exactly what they needed. He now knew Zara's manager's name. He knew the project. He knew the deadline. And he was already thinking about how to use it. The scariest part about being sabotaged by someone you trust is that the first thing you do is blame yourself. It started with a file. 3 weeks into the job, I was assigned to lead a section of a major client presentation. My first real test. I had been working on it for 4 days, late nights, early mornings, the whole thing. I saved it to the shared drive the evening before, triple-checked the folder, and went home feeling good about it for the first time all week. The next morning, the file was corrupted. Not missing, not deleted. Corrupted, which is somehow worse because corrupted means it had been touched. Nadia pulled me aside 20 minutes before the meeting. Her voice was measured, but I could see it in her face. She was disappointed. The client had to wait. We had to restructure the entire opening on the spot. I apologized so many times that she finally told me to stop. I spent the rest of that day rebuilding everything from scratch and telling myself it was a technical glitch. A fluke. These things happen. Except I knew, somewhere in the back of my mind, that I had never once in my professional life lost a file like that. Not once. But I pushed the feeling down. Because the alternative, that someone had done it on purpose, required me to believe something I wasn't ready to believe. After that, things at work felt different. Small things. Nadia was still professional, but the warmth had a slight chill in it now. A colleague stopped, including me on a group thread I'd been part of since day one. I told myself I was being paranoid. That anxiety does this, makes you read into everything, see patterns that aren't there. I called Demi that night, rattled and tired. I told her about the file, the meeting, the look on Nadia's face. I told her I was starting to feel like maybe I'd moved too fast. Maybe the job was too big for me. "Stop," Demi said. "You are exactly where you're supposed to be. You're just in your head." She said it with such certainty, such warmth. I held on to those words for the next 2 weeks like they were a life raft. I had no idea she was the one who had cut the rope. Across town, Demi sat in her car in a parking garage and read Marcus's latest message. He wanted more, not just information this time. He had a specific ask, and it was no longer something she could tell herself was harmless. She stared at the screen for a long time. Then she typed back 2 words, "Okay, fine." I have been embarrassed in my life. I have been overlooked. But I had never, not once, been investigated. Until now. Week 6. That is when it all came apart. Nadia called me into her office on a Monday morning and closed the door behind her. She didn't sit down right away. She stood at her desk for a moment, like she was deciding something. Then she turned and told me that confidential strategy documents from our biggest active client had surfaced with a direct competitor, and that the information in those documents could only have come from someone on the inside. Someone on our team. I remember the room going very quiet. Not silent, I could still hear the office outside the glass walls, phones ringing, keyboards, somebody laughing down the hall. But inside that room, it was like the sound had been turned all the way down. I asked her what she was telling me. She said they weren't accusing anyone yet, that HR was involved, that I should take the rest of the week off while they looked into it. I drove home in the middle of a Monday morning like I had just been fired, because functionally, I had. The documents they were investigating, I had seen them. I had worked with them. The content lived inside a folder I had accessed twice in my first month. There was no clean way to explain that away, and I knew it. I had not leaked anything, but I could not prove it. And in the court of professional reputation, that gap is everything. I sat in my apartment for 3 days. I barely ate. I opened my laptop on Wednesday night, pulled up my resignation letter. I had drafted it at 2 in the morning, half out of exhaustion and half out of something that felt like shame, and I read it back to myself. It was 4 sentences, professional, clean. It said nothing about what had actually happened because I still didn't understand what had actually happened. My finger was on the send button. Genuinely. I was one keystroke away from walking away from the only job I had ever truly wanted. And then my phone rang. It was Nadia, calling me herself after hours from her personal number. I almost didn't pick up, but something, I still can't tell you what, made me answer. "Don't send that email," she said. No greeting, no preamble, just those 4 words. "I found something, come in tomorrow morning, we need to talk." I closed the laptop. I didn't sleep. But for the first time in 6 days, the feeling sitting in my chest wasn't shame. It was something quieter and sharper and much more dangerous. It was the beginning of understanding that this hadn't been an accident at all. There is a specific kind of silence that happens when you finally understand something you were never supposed to find out. I learned what that silence sounds like on a Thursday morning. I walked into Nadia's office the next morning not knowing what to expect. Part of me was braced for more bad news. Another termination. Another document to sign. That is the thing about being in crisis long enough, you stop being able to imagine good outcomes. Your brain just starts rehearsing different versions of loss. Nadia was already at her desk. There was a manila folder in front of her, closed, and she waited until I sat down before she opened it. Inside were bank records, printed, time-stamped, 3 pages front and back. She walked me through them without drama, the way a surgeon explains something clinical and devastating in the same breath. Transfers from an account registered to a name I recognized immediately. Marcus. Into a second account. Amounts that weren't enormous, just consistent. Every 2 weeks, like a paycheck. Labeled in the memo line as consulting fees. I looked at the name on the receiving account for a long time. It was Demi. Transfer 1, 3 days before the corrupted presentation file. Transfer 2, the week the email leak occurred. Transfer 3, the morning of my HR meeting. Every single payment lined up. Not approximately, exactly. The timestamps matched each incident like a lock and a key. I had been asking myself for weeks what I had done wrong. The answer was nothing. The answer was that someone had been paid to make it look like I had. I did not cry in that office. I want to be honest about that because I think people expect you to fall apart the moment the truth arrives. I didn't. I just sat very still and looked at Demi's name on that page and felt something I can only describe as a door closing. Quietly. Finally. For good. Nadia asked me if I was okay. I told her I would be. I picked up the folder, thanked her, and walked out. I already knew where I was going. I drove to Demi's apartment. 14 years of friendship riding in the passenger seat. I knocked twice. She opened the door, and the moment she saw my face, she didn't say a word. She didn't have to. The look in her eyes told me she had been waiting for this knock for a very long time. They say the truth sets you free. What they don't tell you is that it also leaves a door-shaped hole where someone used to stand. We sat in her living room, the same couch where we had watched movies and eaten takeout and talked about our futures for 14 years. I put the folder on the coffee table between us, and I did not say a word. I just let her look at it. Demi did not deny it. I think some part of me had been hoping she would, that there would be some explanation I hadn't considered, some angle that made the whole thing less than what it was. But she looked at those pages and she started to cry. Not dramatically. Just quietly, the way people cry when they know they have no defense left. She told me about the debt, the pressure she had been carrying alone for over a year. She said Marcus had made it sound so small at first. Just information, just a few details. Nobody gets hurt. She said by the time she understood how far it had gone, she was already in too deep and too afraid to come forward. That she had told herself 100 times she was going to stop. I listened to all of it, every word. And when she finished, I picked up the folder, stood up, and I left. Not because I had nothing to say, but because some betrayals sit so deep that words just aren't the right tool for them. Silence was the only honest response I had. The company's legal team handled Marcus. I won't pretend it was fast or clean. These things never are. But the paper trail Nadia had built was airtight, and within 3 weeks, his professional life had collapsed in the exact way he had tried to collapse mine. Some outcomes write themselves. I returned to my desk on a Monday. Same building, same floor. But everything felt different in the way that things feel different when you have been tested at the deepest level and did not break. I was good at the job. I had always been good at it. The difference now was that I knew it, not because anyone had told me, but because I had watched someone spend real money trying to take it from me, and they had failed. About a month later, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I had deleted but still recognized. One line. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix it." I read it twice. Then I set the phone face down on my desk and opened my laptop. I had a deadline in 2 hours and a meeting after that and a career I had nearly lost and had somehow managed to keep. The message would still be there later. Maybe I'd reply. Maybe I wouldn't. But right now there was work to do. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough.